Welcome back to Good Day Stateline. We wish it weren't true, but we're on the brink of what could be a pretty severe cold and flu season, so we want to be prepared, and we got the right guy helping us out tonight. Best-selling author and medical contributor, Dr. Ian Smith. Hi, how are you?
Great. It's great to join you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so, we're on the brink. Well, we're in the middle of fall, you could say. Winter's coming our way. Cold and flu season, of course, associated with both of those. What should we be doing to prep for this year's cold and flu season?
Well, prep always means starting with vaccines. It's very important. First of all, COVID is not over, and we're still having cases. People are still dying, though we're not talking about it as much. So people need to get their vaccinations and their booster shots, but they also need to get the flu vaccine. The flu vaccine happens every single year. The reason why you need to get it every year is because last year's vaccine and 2 years ago doesn't work because the vaccine is comprised of particular strains, those strains of the virus that we expect to be popular during this season. We look over to Asia and Australia to see what they had, how bad their season was. Unfortunately, they didn't have a good season. Australia is reporting the worst flu season in the last 5 years. That typically is a harbinger of not great things for us because we follow them. And so we get information from them, we figure out what we're going to do and the vaccine that we need to manufacture, and that's what's available to everybody.
So we should be thinking of ourselves as lucky that we can look to them, right? We have a little bit of a jump on the game, so we should think about the recommendations and do what we can, since it's not going to be a shocker that it's going to be not so great of a flu season.
100%. And here's one of the issues why it wasn't great is because the COVID mandates and the precautionary measures have been relaxed because we are not having such big COVID cases. Well, the good thing about the COVID mandates was that we also were wearing masks all the time and sanitizing and washing surfaces in our hands. That prevented us from getting cold and flu. That's why the numbers the last couple of years have been so low. So people need to go back to wearing the mask. I'm not saying all the time, but if you're going to be on a train, a plane, a bus, if you're going to be in a room full of strangers, wear the mask for a few hours to prevent the transmission of the cold and flu. Also, go back to washing your hands frequently. Soap and water is the best. If not that, then use sanitizer. And make sure you're coughing and sneezing into your elbow. Remember, when you cough and sneeze, that is propelling the viral particles out in the open air. Someone else can breathe it in, and they, of course, can become infected. So all the measures we were using during COVID, we should use to prevent cold and flu.
I was just talking to one of our producers yesterday about how it's so much easier to teach kids things than adults. You see the kids who kind of grew up in the last couple of years actually washing their hands a lot longer than adults are and remembering hand sanitizer and knowing where to sneeze. And you look around and it's the adults that need the big reminders about the 20 seconds to wash your hands, right?
Always. But we have to be more responsible. Remember, people still die from the flu. Over 60,000 Americans die from the flu every year. Typically those who are really young, those who are older, or those who have underlying medical conditions. So the flu is nothing to laugh at. Is it COVID? No, but it still has a very deadly impact, and we should be mindful of preventing it, if not for ourselves, then infecting others who may be very vulnerable to its consequences.
Absolutely. So we're talking about, preventing the cold and flu, but if you get the cold, a big cold or the flu, what can we do, as we shop over the counter to kind of help ourselves feel a little better?
Yeah, over-the-counter medications have been very effective at reducing the severity of symptoms as well as how long the symptoms will last. Look for two ingredients. One is called guaifenesin, which is an expectorant, or it thins the mucus so you can bring it up easier. The other is called dextromethorphan, and that helps to suppress your cough. Those are two important active ingredients. So when you're buying your medication at the pharmacy, look at the back of the label, the packaging of the bottle to make sure it contains those. In my house, we use something called the Mucinex extended release tablets. Why? Because they last up to 12 hours, providing symptomatic relief. Chest congestion, cough, these tablets are very good at keeping you at bay for up to 12 hours. And so that's what we use. But of course, always check with your local pharmacist and get their recommendation.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for all these tips and tricks. We promise we'll wash our hands harder than we have been lately. Where can we go to get any more information, Dr. Ian Smith?
You can easily go to mucinex.com or go to the local Walmart or pharmacy. Talk to your pharmacist. They will answer your questions, even if you don't have health insurance, even if you're not buying medication from them. They are there as a very useful resource for you.
That's a great reminder. Thanks so much for being here with us.
Thank you. Take care.
Coming up next on Good Day State Line, it's game day with a behind-the-scenes look at this year's Bergstrom State Line Quiz Bowl. Don't go anywhere.